Okay, this one feels a little weird to talk about, but message 8, maturity. Hey everyone, it's your host Desi on Unsent Voice Memos, and this week we're going to dive into something I've been questioning a lot about for a while: maturity. So, just before I started recording, I went onto Cambridge Dictionary and looked up what maturity meant, and according to that, it said it means mentally and emotionally well developed and therefore responsible. It seems really simple in theory, yet it's what I've been questioning for the past week. So my RAS has been turned on towards the word, and it actually has been really frustrating me because something with such a simple definition has caused me so much grief, especially lately. And for those who don't know what your RAS is your reticular activating system, and it's kind of complex, but in simple terms, it determines what information you pay attention to and what you ignore. So, and you can like learn to control it, but this is not one like I wanted to control with my RAS being turned on to maturity. So, I think just a random example is I love candles, so my RAS is turned on towards that. Like I will just notice candles in really random places just because that's what my RAS is turned on it to. It's essentially what your conscious mind is aware of, and you can choose what it can be aware of. Anyway, that it's really complex, but that's what essentially it is in simple terms, what your mind pays attention to. So for me, like for the past week, it has been maturity, and it definitely goes on and off because this is not the first time I've thought about this. But I don't want to get off into a bit of a tangent about your RAS because I could easily do that. But anyway, so I've always questioned what maturity was since I was little, and I always questioned from when I was like a young child and had a conscious mind, like if I was actually deemed mature enough for society, which seems crazy because I can like literally remember 7-year old me just questioning if I was like back then was just being too childish and not grown up for the people around me. But as a teenager now, it doesn't make defining what maturity is easier at all. For me, like I have to be mature enough to take responsibility for my actions, do my homework, and know how to respond properly in every single situation. Yet, I've been on the planet for under 20 years with barely any life experience, so I'm bound to make mistakes. And when I do, I'm deemed immature. Or there are other times that I'm just talking with my friends, and to say the least, I can be quite shocked. Like, some have already had girlfriends or boyfriends, or just gone through things that I could never imagine at this age. And I just question if that makes me immature just for not having that experience. Or maybe I just like don't have the responsibility for it. Like for the example, like with relationships, because that's the main thing that high school girls talk about. I question if I'm actually responsible enough to hold one, and if I am, does that suddenly make mature if I have a partner? Like I really don't know. And the thing is, I don't know if I'm mature enough for society. The thing is, there are also other times I've been complimented for being mature, like when I make the right choices or when I make a rational decision when I should be filled with emotion. Or when I've gone through something really hard that not many people my age have gone through. There are many times I've had to grow up like fast and forced to be mature. And I'm not really going to give an example for when this has happened in my life, but I think from going through it so young, I've learned things that aren't necessarily good for me. Like, I think the main thing I learnt was just being able to go through a difficult time without having to tell anyone that you're going through a difficult time, and just give the usual I'm fine, just smile through it and just make everyone else around you think you're happy while you're suffering on the inside, which I know is not a good thing, but it is something that I've learned from this because I was told that it was a way to be weak when I was around that age when this happened. And it's not like anything serious before anyone starts getting ideas. It's not anything serious, but it had emotionally impacted me because it happened for quite a few years. Anyway,
off that note, like even while I've been going through all this stuff and after it and just been mature and being complimented for being mature.
I'm still being called immature. And to be honest, I don't really know where I stand on this maturity scale. Like, I don't even know what maturity looks like. So, how do I even know where I'm meant to be on this scale? Like, what, like, is maturity just being able to communicate your emotions better, but still being able to hide them from others? And, like, as a teenager, going through this back and forth is so exhausting because as a child, it's okay to be immature most of the time. And then as an adult, you've gone through enough experience that you are already deemed mature. But then I'm just like, where does that actually leave me or leave us? Stuck in the middle between immaturity and maturity, expecting to act like adults, but not having the same experience as them. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, I've said already, under 20 years of experience of living life. So I have no idea how everything's supposed to go. And the things I've done, I've definitely regretted. And I definitely don't always mean them, but intent doesn't matter a lot of the time when it comes to immaturity. So, yeah, I honestly don't know where I sit on this maturity scale that everyone seems to have figured out except me, it feels like, even though I know a lot of other people are probably thinking this. A lot of the time just feels like I'm the only one that's just going through this. And I think that's what has been on my mind lately. I've also had a lot more time to think, one could say. I've had a lot more alone time and quiet time to just think about life, and that has done me both good and bad. I've had time to reflect on many things, but one of them, as I said, because my eyes has been turned onto it, was my maturity. Because at the age I'm at, I don't actually know if I'm mature enough. And I think that has just been a lot for me to think about. And even now, like, I'm struggling to voice what I've been thinking about this past week because it's so hard just to think, am I actually okay for society in terms of maturity? I know that sounds really slightly dark and a bit philosophical, but it is what I've been thinking. And I remember probably around 7 to 10, because I've always been kind of the childish type in the sense of not that I would act childish, but I liked childish things. Like to this day, I still watch mostly Disney movies because I love the joy I get out of them. For the longest time, I also didn't have social media, and that wasn't because my parents prevented me from it, but it was because I just genuinely didn't want it because I didn't get the point of it. Because I'm like, why do people like social media so much when it drains you so mentally? Like, I could not comprehend that. Except there actually was this one time I got social media and it was TikTok, and there was all the craze back then. A lot of my friends had it, and I knew my parents would never let me get it. So I created my own Gmail. It was really stupid because I literally put TikTok in the username. Not my smartest moment. And I created a TikTok account. It was private. And now I've deleted all the videos. So hopefully they're still not out there on the internet. But I know with the whole digital footprint thing, it probably still is. And it's not like I did anything inappropriate or embarrassing, but part of the reason I had TikTok back then was because all my friends had it, and I'm like, I want to fit in because I felt like I wasn't as mature as them. And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, this could just be my memory creating things, that a couple of times they had called me a bit childish because back then maturity was a big word. This is not just like something I have been thinking about lately. It's always been something going on in my life since the age of 7, as I said. And that's just like one instance, like the TikTok.
So, this next story, this has taken over the course of a couple of years. This was ages ago, back in primary school for me. And I think this is like, I don't think back then I would have known the exact definition of maturity, but it definitely would have been playing on my mind. And I've always been someone like a bit younger in my year. So I think this would have been around the time I was in year four. I had this like friend group. Actually, maybe it was year three. It was, and this lasted for quite a few years. I had this thing called my baby voice, and whenever we like played games at school, it always had something to do with siblings, like siblings going on adventures or something. I don't know. That was just like my game back then, and I played with quite a few of my friends. I was always like nominated as the youngest sibling, and I never really hated it. But then it got to the point where I was like, are they calling me the youngest sibling because I'm so mature? So to play that youngest sibling, I would put on like a baby voice. And I don't think any of them really minded it because it was for the game and I knew how to get back into my old voice like quite easily. But then obviously this game we'd always play like some variation of it every single day for 5 days a week. So it ended up seeping into me as a person. Every now and then I'd come home and I'd talk in my baby voice, and it started becoming a habit. And it definitely wasn't the best habit to have. And I struggled to break out of it. I don't really think I need to actually ask my parents. I'm not sure when I broke out of this habit, but I think it would have been in my last year of primary school when I broke out of this habit. Like it took me years to break out of it. And I think for me, that was partially because I could play the role of being just this childish person because everyone already viewed me as that. So it wasn't such a bad thing that I was playing a role where everyone already viewed me as this really childish person. And I'm actually not sure if, apart from my parents, if anyone around me noticed that I had gotten into this habit of having a baby voice. Like, I would never do it around my friends unless we were playing some game. But I had that baby voice for years, and I actually only just remembered this as I'm recording this. Like, I completely forgot I used to have this baby voice, and then I just started talking about being childish, and I suddenly thought of this because I was told all the time that I need to stop using my baby voice, use your proper voice because you're being really childish. It definitely made me realize how easily habits can stick and how hard they are to get rid of. Like, that was probably one of my very first instances with a bad habit sticking. So, there's that one. Like, there are so many of these stories, and I could go on for ages and ages about this. And I think this is kind of the root of where it all came from is that people had this stereotype of me that I was always meant to just be that small kid who had a lot of fun and was just really childish and could always just be there to brighten up any mood. I was like the innocent person in the group that way. And I'm not surprised they got that image. Like, I even have this image, I feel like, still a bit in high school. So obviously you can't really tell because I am behind this screen just speaking into a mini microphone. I really do love my mini microphones, but that's such a side note. But I am not the tallest person in the world. I am like, I think I'm 5 foot around that height. So I'm not very tall, and for someone living in Australia, I'm below average height by quite a bit. A lot of my friends are at least a head taller than me, and it has always been that way since I was a kid. So I think when coming into it, like not into it, just like into school, everyone assumed, oh, this person would just be really childish because I can see you as that because of the way you look. And they weren't wrong because I definitely succumbed to it. Like, I've already told so many. There's another one like in year one. I had these three other friends, and we used to play this game. I think we called it Imaginary Friends, and it was just like all of us. I don't even know what the setting was, but we all have horses, and I was the one that had the horse that would always go out of control. And I think part of that was to, I guess, reflect my personality. I'm not entirely sure, but I think from a very young age, apart from kindy where I was really shy, I was always this really loud person trying to be seen in the room. And I was a bit crazy, I will say that. But I think a lot of people took that as me being quite childish and being this really fun person. And I struggled to get rid of that image when I wanted to. Like, I wanted to get rid of it in high school, and I somewhat did. But there were also people who came with me from primary school to high school who knew me, and they still categorized me as this person who was really childish. And I had seen it in the way they talk to me versus the way they talk to other people. So I really didn't like that. And I don't think I ever told them off, which I do regret a bit for not telling them off. Essentially, it has taken me a while to get out of this. She's not just this short person who is looks like a child, so she must act like a child kind of thing. And I actually don't know how many people have this idea in their head, like consciously or subconsciously. But the thing is, most people would have this image. And I'm not saying it's just me. I know quite a few of my other friends who, the way they act or just the way they talk or just anything, like their manner, I guess, people categorize them as childish and immature. And I'm not saying I haven't done this. I have done this as well, even though I have been succumbed to this stereotype. But I think it took me a long time to realize that I was being succumbed to a stereotype that I really didn't like. Like, I kind of knew in year seven, but I really struggled to get rid of that image because I didn't fully understand it back then. And it took like maybe a couple years after that to understand that people are trying to put me in a box, and I really didn't like that. So I've had to constantly prove myself again and again that I am not just this person who is really childish, who can only knows how to have fun. I think that's what people don't realize about me, like how hardworking and diligent I can be. People don't realize that a lot of the time. So I guess you could say they underestimate me in terms of my maturity and my working ability, and has its advantages and disadvantages, obviously. But I feel like I've gone on a bit of a tangent now thinking about it. But that essentially my point is people do try to box you, and I had that, and that was an issue of mine for a long time, that it started to become an insecurity, I think. Probably one of my first insecurities was never to do with my body, but it was always to do with how people perceive me, because I always had this fear of judgment, and I think everyone has. I think that fear of judgment escalated when I realized people were viewing me as childish, because I was like, I don't want people to look at me like this. And obviously, now with my Raz turned on towards just the word maturity and anything to do with that, it has been on my mind a lot. Am I, like, that insecurity I think has come to light a bit with the whole maturity thing? Like, am I actually mature enough to make my own decisions, handle situations without any parental help or adult help? Am I mature enough to lead my own life that way? Because I am at that age now where I'm close to leaving home, I think. If I'm ready. I actually don't know if I'm ready. That's a whole another story. But I have a lot more on my plate that way in terms of responsibilities. So I know that way I am mature enough, but I think just with people questioning me with it constantly, I don't know if I am or if I should be. So I guess maybe that is why this word maturity has been on my mind, because it's just this insecurity that has lit up again from my childhood. And now that I've come to this realization that it is an insecurity of mine, I don't really know what I'm going to do with it, or just how I'm going to approach the next couple weeks. So I guess that is a bit of a food for thought for me, but if anyone else has been thinking about it, for everyone. And I feel like this is just kind of giving like a natural way to wrap up the episode. It is a bit of a shorter one than normal. It's the first live episode we have done in a while, so do hope you guys enjoyed this one. And I think just before I even just get to my usual hibba jabba stuff, I just kind of want you guys to leave with a couple messages that I really hope resonate with you in this story. And I have said one before, one's kind of similar, but I haven't really said it. So I'm just going to get straight into it. The first one is just don't really compare yourself to others. Have I actually said this before? I probably have. I think I maybe said in like message 3. I don't listen to my own episodes like after I edit them. So I don't actually remember when, if I've said this or when I've said it, but I feel like I have. But don't compare yourself to others. And that's like the main thing I think where our insecurities come from, because our insecurities come from just comparing ourselves to someone else and comparing ourselves to a standard set by society. And I think when you form your own definition, like in this case, once you form your own definition of maturity, you know what you need to live up to, and then I think you just feel better about yourself. I'm not entirely sure because I do compare maturity to others still. It's something I need to learn to come up with my own definition and decide if I'm mature enough. And then the second thing, which I guess is somewhat similar but a bit different, is just be the author of your own story. I think here you could see that I was letting others make decisions for me quite a bit, and that isn't how I want to live my life, and I'm pretty sure that's not how anyone wants to live their life. So just write your own story, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's living your life, not anyone else. So why should anyone else dictate what happens in your life and how you should feel in your life? So that's what I want you guys to take away. And for next week's episode, I'm actually have no idea what I'm going to do, if I am going to do a live episode or just another session episode, but I guess you guys will see next week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then 10 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Don't forget to follow me on Spotify and subscribe if you listen on YouTube. And also don't forget to follow me on my Instagram at Unsent Voice Memos Podcast. I will actually be posting a little exclusive clip soon that I don't think I will put on my main platforms. So if you want to be able to see that, make sure you follow me on Instagram, and I will see you guys all next week.
I never thought that this episode would turn out like this, but I'm not mad at it. And I think just recording it, I learned a lot. Message 8 concluded.